So we continue the topic of relationships, love, types of love. This is a very, very deep topic. Unfortunately, people often don't understand the nature of family happiness at all. Even those who attend my lectures ask questions indicating that the misunderstanding of the nature of family happiness is enormous in our hearts. That's how a person is built. They don't understand this deeply. What scheme of understanding things do we have? The first thing we want from childhood is dreams. We want infatuation, not love, so that there is happiness in life. Moreover, we want it to happen by itself. This is initially what we want. A woman wants harmony, tenderness, affection, and relationships. A man wants to be strong and to be a winner. He wants to be respected by his wife, that she obeys him, listens to him, values him, and so on. We just want all of this. The most surprising thing is that this never comes to a person by itself. God gives this to a person simply to show them that it exists. What God gives us is called infatuation. When people find each other, they experience happiness. There's a feeling of infatuation. One sees the person's beauty. Today, as we were driving to the lecture, a song was playing. I see a shadow, a red shore, a strip of silt. I'm ready to kiss the sand you walked on. He sings in the song, if I could go back 10 years, I would feel like this. I would have such a feeling from you, but now it's some other feeling, it has passed. The idea is that people dream and expect that they should get this happiness for free. Happiness for free is called infatuation. It means just to feel good from being with a loved one. If you no longer feel good with your loved one, then, well, why should I live with them? What's the point? This is how every single person thinks. Rule number 1, infatuation always ends for everyone. There's even a psychologist who analyzed many married couples and created a V-shaped graph. This graph starts with infatuation, then the relationship gradually fades, then at the bottom either divorce or a complete recession of the relationship and an upturn afterwards. The upturn means something new happened in the relationship. This new thing actually signifies true love. People live, their infatuation fades. When there's just a little feeling left, they live with what they have. When it's completely at zero, they think, we don't match each other, and they split up. That's what 80% of people do. Then they jump from the frying pan into the fire, because it doesn't get better. It's the same thing again, only this period of infatuation gets shorter. One of my acquaintances in Moscow, a Moscow playboy, says, Dr. Torsunov, it's kind of strange. He's already 40 years old and he's still single. It's kind of strange, Dr. Torsunov. Now when I fall in love with a woman, the infatuation only lasts for a few hours or a day. Before I could love for years. I say, everything ends in this world. Infatuation is a gift from God. God has started giving fewer gifts. He gives you these gifts so that you would get married, not to enjoy women. And he started thinking, what's the idea? That infatuation is a gift from God. It's what we should see in our loved one. What does the Lord do? He connects the hearts of people who are destined for each other, meaning they are similar in both good and bad ways. And what does he do? The Lord brings out the good in a person and hides the bad. The person thinks, wow, and starts experiencing happiness from the other person. They feel, it's really cool with them. It's good. I like it. This all means a demo version, try and buy. Look at what this person is like inside. They have so much good. They're like this. That's infatuation. Then you should see the same thing in your relationship. You should strive to make the person open up to you the same way you saw them the first time. One student asked his mentor, an Orthodox priest, Teacher, how can I make sure I always love my wife? The teacher said, learn to see in her what you saw the first time you met. When you learn to see her purity for your whole life, then you will love her for your whole life. To learn to see this purity, you need to take care of the person, not expect happiness from them. They say, you used to talk to me differently. You used to look at me differently. All this was from God, and it's called infatuation. Now you need to develop all this yourself through your care. No expectations will work anymore. Expectations are over. This is a natural pattern. It's not like something's not right with us, unlike everyone else. Everyone else seems happy, but our love has withered away. It's the same for everyone. It's just that it doesn't wither at the same time for everyone. So it seems like it's happening to you, but not to others. There are 3 stages of love. The first stage is when a person must become fulfilled in their heart, independent of their loved one. I dedicated the entire lecture to this yesterday. You shouldn't beg for happiness from them. You need to stop asking your wife to cook better for you. Stop asking your husband to take care of you, to love you. You need to stop begging and learn to get happiness from nature, from people, and from God. This is the first thing a person should do. Then people become worthy of being loved. For this, they first need to accept their loved one. A woman and a man came to the lecture and sat closer to ask me a question. They came to the lecture together and said, "We can't live with each other." They asked me, "What should we do? This person is difficult for me, and this one is also difficult." If they had learned to accept each other and understood that God decided this, I behaved like this in my past life. I got such a person because I was like this in my past life. Everything is natural. If you had seen and felt this, you wouldn't have any questions. A husband and wife came to the lecture. I saw the husband was like the wife in his past life, and the wife was like the husband. I saw they were perfectly suited for each other, but they told me, "Dr. Torsunov, we're not compatible at all. She wants happiness from him and he wants happiness from her, but they haven't earned happiness. They haven't deserved happiness, but they've deserved what they have. They want better but can't get it. A person must first accept." What does acceptance mean? Acceptance is when you agree with your fate, which is right in front of you. One woman asked, "Dr. Torsunov, how can I see my fate?" I said, "It's very simple. Close your eyes, remember your children, husband, all close relatives, your boss at work. That's your fate. They embody your fate. There's nothing secret. It's all out in the open. That's your fate. Work through it. First, accept all this. Understand who you are. When you accept, you'll understand yourself. We consider ourselves, 'Oh my God, I'm so great,' but who you really are. I give lectures. I'm so cool. Everyone tells me, 'Dr. Torsunov, thanks to you.' I come home and my wife tells me who Dr. Torsunov really is. She tells me the truth about myself. I say, 'Okay, thank you, Lord. Now I know everything.' Or when a mentor teaches me, then I also say thank you. And if I don't say it, it means I'm a fool. I'll admit it to myself later. What's the idea? First, a person must accept their loved one. What do they get during acceptance? People think, if I accept this, it means I'll live with it all my life. No, on the contrary, if you accept it, you'll never live with it. You'll live with something else. When a person accepts another person, accepts all the bad in them, what will they see next? All the good. You've already accepted the bad, accepted it all. Why think about it? Now think about the good. When I stopped noticing that my wife is easily offended, I began to see how deep, pure, and bright she is. I began to see the good. I just decided that her being easily offended is how it's supposed to be for me. That's what I deserve. When I accepted that my students learn slowly, understand everything very slowly, they started to learn faster. Before that, I scolded them, didn't like them, but then I simply accepted it, and they began to develop. Acceptance is the first step to seeing purity. How do you know that you've accepted your loved one? When your home is not like a battlefield, but a place to rest. You feel good at home, you rest at home, despite the fact that your loved one, your personified fate, lives there. You come home, you agree with everything. They criticize you, you're calm. Yes, it's all fine, don't worry, everything will be okay. From this moment, the first stage of love has passed. It will only get better from here, not worse. People who can't agree, who constantly argue, haven't even made the first step towards love. It means they will never have a normal family. Some say, "Dr. Torsunov, we've been living together for 10 years, constantly arguing." It means you haven't even made the first step towards love. The first step towards love means acceptance. Once acceptance has happened, arguments end. You might have small disagreements sometimes, but then you'll make up. Sometimes you might have a little quarrel, then make up. It's really nothing, but life becomes peaceful, at the very least, and energy isn't wasted unnecessarily. There's no conflict because acceptance has occurred. I deserve such a person, so what can I do? It's my fate. I don't agree that this is my fate. What to do now? You'll have to agree. You can try to change it, but it will be the same again. Then you'll have to agree anyway. The next spouse is usually worse, not better. Why? God gives you the best right from the beginning, then He has less in stock, so He gives you somebody not as good. The second stage is called respect. When a person has accepted their loved one, their intelligence activates, because intelligence is always inactive when there's tension and conflict. One's intelligence activates at the moment when the person is no longer in conflict and is calm. Intelligence is the function of discernment. Women start to see, Dr. Torsunov said that men have this. Oh, exactly, my husband has it. Why didn't I notice it before? All women have purity deep inside, conscientiousness and kindness. It turns out my wife is pure, conscientious, and kind, he noticed accurately. All men have nobility in their hearts, self-sacrifice, a desire to protect, care for, and make their wife happy. All men have this. Exactly, my husband has this. She understood. Why? Because she accepted. Often women raise their hand and start berating their husband. An inexperienced person starts to think, Lord, what kind of monster is living with her? It often happens that the husband is actually sitting nearby. When he starts to speak, it turns out that she didn't say anything about his qualities at all. She described all the flaws, but she doesn't see at all what he is really like. This means she has simply gone blind. When a person sees only the flaws in someone, they become blind and don't see what God has given them. Let's say God gave you gold and wrapped it in dirt. You're thinking, dirt, nothing but dirt, but inside is gold. If you had cleansed your perception, you would have seen only gold. God actually gave you gold. If you were given a piece of gold and half of it was dirt, half gold, would you say, this is dirt? There's gold inside, you understand? It's enough for a lifetime. You'd immediately start cleaning it. Gold, gold. A person is even better than a piece of gold. The human soul shines with such beauty that it's impossible to describe in words. We don't see the soul in a person. We only see our own fate. That's the whole problem. That's why we suffer. To see the soul in a person, we need to learn to take care of them. Acceptance is the beginning of taking care. Accept your fate through them. Understand that it's your fate acting through them. Then you'll be happy. And when you see the soul in them, you'll be infinitely happy. The soul in every person is the same. All character qualities, kindness, simplicity, honesty, beauty, ability to love, determination, courage, bravery, patience, honesty. These are all qualities of the soul. In men, certain qualities of the soul are naturally manifested. Bravery, courage, determination, resilience. In women, other qualities of the soul are naturally manifested. Purity, beauty, kindness. These qualities are naturally manifested in a person simply because they were born as a woman or as a man. If God has united you, you can see all of this in each other. But there's a condition. First, accept your fate in the person. Agree that this is your fate. Some people say, I love God and argue with my husband. Remember, it doesn't happen like this. A person who argues with their husband doesn't accept God's will. If you don't accept someone's will, it means you don't love them. Love means accepting the will. It's simply dishonest. First, accept God's will, accept that you've been given this person in life, and then for God's sake, you can love them. The second stage of respect means seeing. A man begins to see purity in a woman, understands that she was born for happiness, and that he should help her in this. Then she will emit love, like a cow produces milk when given hay. Just make her happy, she will love everyone, become beautiful and kind. A man is created to protect, conquer, help in everything. Accept him, understand that he is strong, profound, faithful, steady. Accept him as a man, understand his qualities of courage, bravery, and valor. See the main thing in him, and this main thing will start living with you. If you see your fate in him and it brings you pain, then your fate will live with you, not this soul. Choose what you want to live with, your fate or the soul that God gave you. To live with the soul, one needs to be able to forgive, endure, and love. You should try your best to see the good, to fully dedicate yourself to the process of understanding the right way of life. You should never break down. Try not to lose heart, overcome fate. A woman asked me today, Dr. Torsunov, my husband drinks and doesn't change at all. I said, you don't pray. She said, yes, I don't pray. I said, that's why nothing changes for you. With the help of sound, with the help of contact with purity, a person first overcomes fate in their heart, then fate that exists between two of them, and then fate in the heart of their loved one. Our fate also lives in the heart of a loved one, not their fate, but mine, so it can be overcome there too. Who among you has a husband who stopped drinking as a result of prayer? Are there any? Did you remember? You can approach her, she will tell you how it all happened. Okay, raise your hand. Look, talk to her, help her. Respect is such a stage where you deeply understand a person, and in order for them to live well, you are ready to sacrifice your inner principles. A man's principle is this: the wife should walk on eggshells, always agree, nod, be happy, love, smile, believe. That's how it seems to a man. The wife doesn't smile, isn't happy, doesn't believe, doesn't agree. You should understand that this is simply because life is hard for her. She lives in this world just like you do. It's difficult for her. You should say, everything will be fine. Don't be sad. We have everything ahead of us. You should speak kind words to her and calm her down all the time. She will gradually calm down. Then she'll say, I'm grateful that I have got you. She will be very grateful and gratitude will open up inside her heart. This is the first stage of respect. One person endures their loved one for the sake of that person. I want to sacrifice my expectations from them for their sake, so that they can have a good life. I want everything to be fine for them. At this moment, the soul opens up and says, thank you so much. I also want everything to be fine for you. So the second stage of love begins. It is gratitude that comes after patience. Gratitude unexpectedly reveals the good qualities of a person. What is the price of gratitude? The price of gratitude is your ability to not pay attention, to not give significance to the foolishness of a loved one. Every person has foolishness. They don't notice it. It seems normal to them, but it seems terrible to you. You should learn to look at this foolishness as they do. Women are used to female foolishness. Men are used to male foolishness. A woman can't accept male foolishness. She finds it disgusting. She can't agree with it. It's a complete nightmare. A man can't accept female foolishness. How is this even possible? But you need to accept it. What foolishness do men have? Mess, carelessness, rudeness. It's okay, my dear. Everything will be fine. She accepted. He suddenly became better. He started to respect the woman more. From clumsy, he turned into graceful. He began to change. He accepted the woman, her emotions, whims, bad mood, constant dissatisfaction, and she suddenly relaxed and began to change. A different life begins. In this world, everyone suffers, and we must accept this fact. All people suffer in this world. A woman suffers as a woman, a man as a man. When a man suffers, he becomes rude, careless. When a woman suffers, she becomes capricious, her mood worsens, she becomes sad, and so on. Accept that all people suffer in this world. Try to treat people kindly. For this, you naturally need a reserve of strength, because their suffering also wears you out. If you're self-sufficient, you have enough strength not only for yourself, but also for your loved one, then you're worthy of love. The second stage of love gives people the opportunity to feel not just calmness when they come home and feel fine, calm. The second stage of love gives people the opportunity to feel harmony. Harmony with each other. It's an amazing feeling. Harmony begins despite the external flaws that haven't gone anywhere. The channels from the heart, the connection between hearts, the thread, has already been cleared. When people tolerate each other, they begin to cleanse the thread of fate in their relationship. This is not cleansed through conversation. People often want to come to an agreement with each other, but a scandal begins. If the thread is clogged, don't try to negotiate. Close relationship means this thread is clean. If you feel that you're unpleasant to each other or offended by each other, start caring for each other, doing good deeds. Start wishing happiness to your loved one in your heart. Start praying to cleanse this bad connection, just as we brush our teeth. We don't eat when our mouth stinks, right? We first brush our teeth, then we go to eat. Isn't that so? Animals first smell, then eat. You know, through smell you can determine whether food is good or bad, whether it suits you or not, whether it's infected with bacteria or not. This is determined through smell, not through taste. Poison can taste sweet, but its smell is always deadly dangerous. A cow first smells, then eats. Nobody told her what kind of grass, what variety of it to eat. She determines by smell. She feels by smell, I can eat this. And so does a person. A cow first smells, then eats, but we first eat and then smell. What did we eat? What's that smell? This is a sign of foolishness. Sometimes God gives a person everything they need. You just should use it. It's the same in relationships. A person should first cleanse the relationship, then talk to their loved one. Otherwise, the conversation will be unpleasant. To cleanse the relationship, you need to accept first, we are in conflict now. Accept fate. Then you need to take care. If there's a conflict with your wife, it's okay. Bring her a flower. She won't forgive anyway. That's right, because that's how women's psyche is structured. Generally, a woman forgives very slowly, but there can be exceptions. Women, raise your hand. Who among you quickly forgives your husband? Only 5 people in the hall and a couple more up there. And who forgives their husband slowly? Raise your hand. Everyone else except those who abstained. It may take several days for a woman to forgive. Why? Because her psyche is tight inside. On the outside, a woman's psyche is mobile. She's like, la la la, true la la, but inside it's very tight. A man's psyche is tight on the outside, but very mobile on the inside. A man seems unapproachable. He doesn't want to understand anything, but inside, on the contrary, he's very soft, accommodating. Would you like me to prove this? A woman is soft, gentle, kind, affectionate on the outside. Inside, she's firm, unyielding, unchanging. A man is unchanging, firm on the outside, but kind, soft, affectionate inside. Would you like me to prove it? When people are young, the outer part of their psyche becomes very strong, and the inner part is hidden. How does a young woman look? A young woman is affectionate, gentle, kind, modest. How does a young man look? Proud, unyielding. I know everything myself, leave me alone. 50 years later, a woman becomes an old lady. Old grumpy ladies are a special form of life, chasing everyone around and dissatisfied. Old men are so quiet. Dr. Torsunov, everything is fine with us. Isn't that so? Grandfathers are kind, calm, while grandmothers are in charge, right? A grandmother is a woman on the inside. She's firm, unyielding. Everything that's inside comes out with age. A man is soft and kind on the inside. If you don't believe what I just said, there's another way to see what a person is like inside. You need to look at them when they're sleeping. When a person sleeps, the inner part of the psyche comes out. Look at how a woman sleeps. What does her face look like? Firm, calm. And what does a man's face look like in sleep? That's why a woman often addresses her husband when he's falling asleep. When he's awake, she doesn't talk to him. He falls asleep, she sits next to him and starts talking. He says, yes, yes, I agree to everything. Also, the inner part of a man's psyche comes out when he eats. The first 5 minutes after eating, you can resolve all issues with a man. And he will also agree with this. Then he gradually goes back to his usual state, gets into character, and that's it. It's especially dangerous to resolve issues with him when he's just come back from work. Never try to resolve issues with him when he's just come back from work. He's externally very mentally tense at this time. It's very important to understand human nature. That's why a man thinks, when I married her, she was so gentle and affectionate, but now it's a nightmare. We can't agree on anything, and she doesn't even want to forgive at all. It's just that a woman can't forgive quickly. She can't. For example, my wife got offended. First of all, I need to understand that she's offended. I know she's not right. Everyone always knows their own side. I know she's not right, but I also understand that this is all like a world of duality. It's unclear who's completely right and who's wrong. She has her perception, I have mine. It's still impossible for a man and a woman to fully understand each other. I approach her and say, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. She looks at me and says, do you really think so, or did you come out of a sense of duty? I say, no, I really think so, but I know for sure that she's not right. She says, okay, I'll think about it. I know she won't forgive immediately, and that's okay. I know she won't forgive immediately. She can't. She's a woman. I approach, ask for forgiveness. She doesn't forgive. Then half a day passes. I approach her, and I'm already calm, doing my business, because I asked for forgiveness. That's it. I have no problems. Now she has all the problems. For me, everything is fine. I walk around smiling. Everything's great. I ask for forgiveness. After half a day, I approach and say, please forgive me. She looks at me, already being unhappy herself that she can't forgive. She says, I'll forgive you tomorrow. Well, about an hour later, I approach again, hug her and say, everything's good, everything's fine. This suddenly relaxes her, and that's it, she starts smiling. So you see, a woman's psyche is very slow. She endures for a long time and then can't forgive for a long time. It's especially dangerous when a man torments his wife and she just endures it. She endures out of love for him, out of attachment. And she accumulates during this time. She accumulates for a long time. Then bam! And then it's impossible to bring her back. Why? Because she accumulated for a long time and now she can't do anything to reverse it. It often happens that a man pushes a woman to such a degree that she doesn't want to leave, but she doesn't experience happiness with him either. You just need to wait. Often men don't know what to do. My wife doesn't want to see me. Well, it's okay. She's gradually coming to her senses. Wait, 4 or 5 months will pass and she'll calm down and return to the relationship again. A man, on the other hand, might not return to the relationship, not because he's tense and can't calm down. He has a different reason. He doesn't return to the relationship because of principle. And women now can't understand why their man doesn't want to live with them. It's because of principle. And the principle is that if you start fighting with him, meaning you disagree with something and constantly argue, then the man becomes mentally exhausted. He feels that he doesn't control the situation and simply leaves, because it's simply impossible for a man to live with a woman who doesn't agree. It's just impossible. He gets tired and just leaves. That's it. And he doesn't believe that she will ever agree later. But a woman should understand that she needs to nod to a man out of a sense of duty, to learn to agree, at least externally, to maintain the energy of love. Often people are very foolish about their life together. They think they need to say and do what they understand, and that this will be honest. Remember rule number 2. What brings happiness in a relationship between a man and a woman should be considered as honest. That's what's honest. If you see that you need to apologize to your wife, apologize, even if you don't feel guilty. If you see that you need to calm her down, despite her behaving wrong, then calm her down. There's nothing wrong with that. People often put this rightness first, and still they can't figure out in relationships what's right and what's wrong. Because there's a very strong polarity in relationships. A man has his own right, a woman has her own. If we were to lay out what seems true to a woman and what to a man, you'd be very surprised. Very different views on life, very different perceptions of the world. Well, how should a man approximately behave in a relationship with a woman? She has her own way of thinking. That means she's hinting that I can't forgive. A woman can't speak directly. Her psyche is very delicate, fragile. She always speaks in some kind of hints, allegorically. If she speaks directly, then she's already in a tantrum. It becomes dangerous, so to speak. The second stage of a relationship is respect. People begin to understand each other's character. They simply start doing what's necessary, not what they want. Because often people push their own truth in a relationship. I'll behave as I want to, they think. This is complete nonsense. You need to behave as you should. A man should treat a woman like this, constantly calm her, always taking care of her, always telling her that everything will be fine, and so on. A woman should always agree with a man, try to endure his problems, and if he's become too arrogant, you should calmly tell him the truth. And if he doesn't react, then you should calmly keep your distance from him, continue to fulfill your duties, but not engage in a close relationship. And then at the first stage, he starts to get angry, to threaten, you're living here and don't want to please me, how can it be? At the second stage, he tries to ingratiate himself. At the third stage, he starts to behave sincerely and tries to figure out the relationship. Well, you need to understand that both women and men always suffer in relationships. Don't think that in this world some people have good relationships and you just got unlucky. All people always suffer in relationships, and the cause of suffering is selfishness. When a woman wants happiness from a man, he gets tense and suffers. When a man wants his male happiness from a woman, the woman gets tense and suffers. Even if they love each other, suffering is still inevitable, but if a person has learned not to want anything from their loved one, that's a very high level of personal development. And it means that they will definitely be a happy person in relationships, because they have learned to understand how this world works. This world is arranged like this. The more you want happiness from a person, the more suffering you will get. It's very simple. And the more you want to do good for them, the more happiness you will receive. The desire for happiness from a person arises in us like the desire to drink, like the desire to breathe. It arises on its own. We can't do anything about it. I look at a person and immediately want to enjoy them. But we should desire to take care of our loved ones, force ourselves to live like this, force ourselves to take care, not to enjoy. And then they will give happiness back. Similarly, a woman looks at her husband and thinks, so many flaws, Lord, how can I respect him? Just respect him out of a sense of duty. Nod, agree, endure. He will start to become grateful to you. He will see how his wife behaves. As one woman told me, I tried to do this. In the evening, my husband approached me with square eyes and said, what's wrong with you? Are you not feeling well? I was so surprised. He didn't feel happiness at first. He was simply scared by her behavior. It was unexpected for him. This is a sign of a person's intelligence. It shows that self-control in a woman is expressed through humility. It's amazing to realize that a woman's intelligence manifests itself quite unexpectedly, not always in the way she thinks. For example, if a woman is confident she knows everything and believes she is always correct, she starts to shut down her husband. This is a sign of foolishness. However, if a woman thinks that maybe she's wrong about something, if she thinks, this is my perspective, but there are other opinions, this is a sign of a woman's intelligence. An intelligent woman never feels 100% certain she's right. This is a feature of an intelligent woman. Did you note that? Similarly, an intelligent man is deeply convinced internally. Strong conviction in a man is a sign of great intelligence. Of course, he may also have doubts, but he has a very strong conviction inside. When a man is convinced and a woman is modest about her opinions, harmony ensues. Harmony also occurs when a man is not convinced inside and constantly doubts himself, and a woman always firmly believes that she is right. Here too, harmony sets in. But this is the wrong kind of harmony because no one likes it. Such a woman says to a man, "Other men are like swans, but mine is a troublemaker. Honey, don't get on my nerves." No one needs this kind of harmony. It's unnatural. If a woman dictates and a man breaks, it doesn't bring happiness to anyone. On the other hand, a man with strong convictions is appealing to any woman, and a humble woman is attractive to any man. We should do what is right, not merely what we want. A woman always wants to argue with a man because she naturally sees all his flaws and remembers them for life. When a woman argues with him, however, a man feels that she has betrayed him. For example, God forbid a woman acts as she should not. Imagine the husband came home from work and started complaining about his boss being wrong. Of course, you as his wife know that he himself made a mistake with the boss because your conscience recognizes the truth. God gives you the right answer regarding your husband. God always reveals a woman the truth about her husband. That's how this world is arranged. You know that he is wrong, you know this, but you shouldn't tell him about it directly. If he says that the boss is wrong, you should respond, "Honey, that's right, let's eat." Just calm him down first. Then after he's eaten, you might gently suggest, "What do you think about trying to approach him differently? Maybe it will work better?" He'll say, No, I'm behaving correctly with him." You can then say, "Okay, but still, think about it." He'll agree. "All right, fine, I'll think about it." In this way, he will overcome his fate. When a wife unobtrusively and carefully tells a man everything, especially when he's full, he begins to accept it. He will think about it and then change his perception. This is how human psychology works. People are very sensitive in close relationships. They need to be told the truth very carefully. I told you yesterday how I explained to my wife that she needs to wash the dishes in the kitchen, allegorically, through a friend. Then she easily accepts it. In the same way, you need to carefully explain to your husband, and not even explain, but simply ask him, "What do you think, is this right or not?" Not to prove to him he's a fool and his boss is smart. You should never say that to a man, because it awakens his inner rooster, and that's it. Once the rooster has awakened, he goes on the warpath. Women, remember, the worst thing is when your husband has gone on the warpath with you. It will be very difficult for you to prove to him later that you love him, because he will mock you, torment you, and humiliate you. The reason why a man is on the warpath is because a woman insults his opinion. Remember, the most precious thing for a man is his opinion. Moreover, he has different gradations of opinion. For example, if he has an opinion about whether the weather is good or bad, you might say, "The weather is good." He might respond, "It's bad." There's no offense because it's not of great value to him in life. But if you tell him that he's wrong at work or criticize something else that is of great value to him, let's say, in life he's a pilot, and you tell him, "Oh, that's all nonsense, it's a bad profession," you tell him that. That's when he'll go on the warpath. He'll say, "If it's a bad profession, go find yourself a miner or someone else." He'll be disappointed in his loved one because this is the purpose of his life. For him, flying is the purpose of his life. He dedicates his life to it. If you're mocking it, he will say goodbye. Similarly, a woman has something of great value. When a man doesn't understand this, he also loses his wife. It seems like he didn't say anything offensive, but in reality for a woman, the most valuable thing is when a man considers her the best for himself. He's sitting watching TV and says, "Oh, look at that chick. Much prettier than you." He says this to his wife. She might not say anything, but later she thinks, "Yeah, go to hell, go to your chicks." Disappointment occurs in the woman's heart. She no longer believes in this relationship. She thinks he's a stranger. He doesn't value me, doesn't understand my purity and my beauty. He doesn't value me. The man thinks the same way. She doesn't understand my purpose in life, where I'm headed, so she's not my person. We need to understand what's most valuable for a person, for a woman and for a man, and not to interfere with this zone at all. Otherwise, there can be great destruction. Similarly, when a doctor performs surgery, he never interferes where he can cause damage. There are zones where if you touch with a scalpel, just touch, the person dies. That's it. You can't even put a scalpel in these zones. There are such zones in relationships too. It's especially dangerous to criticize such zones in front of friends. You're sitting in a group and you tell your husband's friend, "My man is strange," and his profession is weird, and his aspirations, yours are great. The husband thinks that's it, period. You're sitting in a group and you're talking to your wife. You're telling your wife's friend, Sveta, you're so beautiful, not like my wife. It seems like a joke, just kidding around. Then a year later, the wife says, I'm leaving you. He says, what's wrong? What are you talking about? We have children. She responds, I don't want to live with a person who thinks I'm not beautiful. You understand, right? It's dangerous. Next topic. Often people don't know that family egoism is a terrible thing that accumulates in the family. It gradually destroys relationships, and you need to constantly fight it to overcome it. What is family egoism? Let's say you saw each other, closed off to each other, you're on your honeymoon. Then, friends, goodbye, parents, goodbye, we want to be together. We don't want anyone to bother us. Often people don't want anyone to come to visit or drop by. They don't want anyone to interfere with their life. This is called family egoism. It's a terrible force that destroys the family. Both the woman and the man should fight this force inside. They should learn to feed the birds around, care for people, and take care of the elderly. If someone came, let's say, knocked, give me some clothes, I have nothing to wear. Give me some old clothes. Give them clothes. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid. You need to learn to break your shell. A child came with a friend, and it's time to eat. You say, Alex, go home, my Peter will eat now. This means that you are destroying your family. Instead, you should say, Alex, do you want to eat? Come on, we'll feed you. Peter, you feed Alex first, and then you'll eat. Or, come on, help feed your friend. Caring for other people is a cornerstone of a happy family life, because when a family overcomes its natural desire to bring something home for themselves, when it begins to do something for others, then the ability and strength to be happy appears in the family. An exchange of energy with the environment begins. This is a very important aspect of living together. To be happy on any day, one needs to break this desire for seclusion for oneself, for me, for mine, and direct the family towards other people. Then a person becomes happy any day. In ancient culture, it was generally taught that before eating, you should feed someone else first. It's not necessary to follow such standards. It was believed that if you feed other people, it's as if God has eaten. Some people pray over food to bless it, while some people bless it simply by feeding others. It's already considered blessed food because God has eaten through them, because God rejoices when we give up our food to others. We don't cook for ourselves, but to help others, and it becomes blessed food, it becomes pure. It's very important to eat blessed food. Keep in mind, this is a thing of colossal importance. A person's egoism grows very strongly through food. If a woman cooks for her husband and for her children, she cultivates egoism in the family. A woman should cook for God, and then feed her loved ones with blessed food as a grace. It's also important to know that family egoism is destroyed if certain rules are followed during meals. For example, it's better if the father eats first, then the mother, then the children, then the animals, then the cockroaches. If cockroaches eat first, the food is considered befouled. If pets eat first, this food is befouled. When someone eats, they spread their energy to all the food. It's not that they ate all the food, but if they put it on a separate plate for the dog before the people, it's as if the dog has blessed this food with its dog energy. This food is already befouled. There is such a subtle effect. But if the food went to the altar first, then God ate first, then all the food becomes divine, and it purifies people's consciousness and frees them from sins. Before eating, even if you didn't put it on the altar, at least pray to God. The food is first given to Him, not to you, and this food frees from egoism. There will be fewer disputes and conflicts in the family, because what are conflicts? Conflicts stem from misplaced self-worth. They say, I got up on the wrong side of the bed. When a person is in a bad mood, you approach them and say something. They say, leave me alone. A conflict begins. Why? Because their heart is turned in the wrong direction. The goal of human life in the family is to constantly turn the heart where it needs to be. When you fed the birds, it turned in the right direction. When you blessed the food, it turned in the right direction. Constantly watch that the heart goes in the right direction. Invite friends, wish happiness to everyone, and so on. If you don't do all this at home, then the next scheme is what I want to tell you about now. This is very important to know. One woman approached me with a story I have heard from thousands of women in my life. She approached and said, Dr. Torsunov, I don't understand something. We lived a normal life with my husband. We have children. At some point, he just got up and left. Does he have no conscience at all? After all, we live together. We are his family. We are close people. We are his own flesh and blood. He just got up and left. Now he's living with another woman, as if we were never in his life. Please note that conscience in family life is not a cheap thing. If you live together and you have common interests like a house, a car, or children that you raise together, if you have a desire for a happy life together, there is no conscience in such a life. If you want to know what conscience in family life is, then know that conscience arises in family life when God stands between a husband and a wife. Not their children, their car, their house, or their personal desires. These and other personal desires do not awaken conscience. If you didn't cultivate faith at home, if there are no icons in your family, if you didn't hang them somewhere, if you don't bless the food, if you don't go to church, if you don't donate to the church, if you simply live for each other, then don't be surprised when a loved one leaves, because conscience is God. It's the energy of God. If you want conscience to live in your loved one, you should organize your life accordingly. There are 3 layers of family life. The first layer is when people simply bury themselves in each other. They only have sex and enjoy each other. They drink, party, and have fun. 100%, 3 years, 3.5, 4 years pass, people break up relationships, shatter completely, and run away from each other. Because life is filled with terrible egoism, they don't care about anything. They just want to enjoy each other, and that's it. There's no chance to preserve the family. This is life in ignorance. The next stage is a life of passion in the family, which means that people are set up like this. We want to live like everyone else. We want everything to be good. We want children to grow up. We love our country, love our homeland. We want to be rich. We want to be happy. We want to live so that everything is good. This is life in passion. People don't break up after 3 years. They live together, accumulate wealth, and raise children. They seem to have everything good, but this life doesn't lead to the preservation of the family. There's a serious reason for this, because their goals lead them not to a deep level of relationships, but to a superficial one. People don't work on themselves, don't pray, don't ask for forgiveness, don't dedicate themselves to something sublime. If they just live together and want happiness, not development, then conscience gradually leaves the relationship. These relationships become boring. What happens when a bad period comes for these people who live for happiness, not for self-sacrifice, not for love, which are different things? If you live for happiness, it means once you're tired of your wife, then why live with her? I live for happiness, why should I live with her? I'll go find another one and that's it. There is no conscience in this understanding of things. Remember, people who want to live for children, for everything to be good, for an apartment, for us to be good with each other, these people don't live for love. They don't live according to their conscience. They simply live for happiness. This means that when unhappiness comes, they will abandon each other. Therefore, people in passion usually live 7-8 years together. It gets a little difficult. Goodbye, my love, goodbye. Farewell. While there's happiness, we live. No happiness, goodbye. Who are the people in pure goodness? People in pure goodness are people who are learning to love. They know that infatuation is not love. Sex is not love. Love is when you go through 3 stages. The first stage is accepting the person. The second stage is learning to respect them. The third stage is faithfulness. Faithfulness is a very powerful stage. This is when a person feels another person very deeply. Faithfulness is impossible without faith, because the word faithfulness comes from the word faith. If a person doesn't believe in God, they also can't be faithful to a loved one. They can't be faithful because they don't have the strength for it. God gives us strength to be faithful. It's an asceticism practice to be faithful, similar to fasting and not eating. Being faithful is an asceticism practice because there's always a desire in the heart. It's better somewhere else over there. Another girl is better. Another man is better. A person always compares. They always want what is better in life. No one wants something worse. Faithfulness is an asceticism practice. A person understands with their intelligence that it's better to stay with their wife because God wants it that way, and because there's happiness in the depth of the relationship, not in change, not on the surface. Therefore, if a person could not understand that there is depth, there is purity, there is God, there is prayer. If they didn't understand these things, there's no chance of preserving the family. There's no family. Why? Because a man can easily fall in love or like some other girl. No one is protected from this. A man liked some girl and that's it. He got carried away. A wife liked another man and got carried away. Because people always choose what seems better in life, even despite everything else. But if a person believes in God, they know that better is not what they like, but what God likes. What God wants is better. They begin to understand this in life. I've had many such situations in my life. When I felt that I wanted something one way, but God wanted it differently, I force myself with all my strength to do as He wants, and I overcome my fate. I feel happiness, then luck comes into life, because luck is God's energy, it's His will, His decision. Misfortune is His punishment. Therefore, a person must understand very deeply what is right. When a person believes in God, they begin to feel nature and people. They begin to feel each other. They come to understand the purity of the human soul, the purity of their loved ones, the purity of their children or parents. Life becomes completely different. To believe means to remain in your faith. To believe means not to jump anywhere. You don't need to run away from your wife, from your country, from your faith. You need to preserve everything. You just need to go deeper. You need to deepen relationships, not just wait for something from your loved one. To deepen means to act from your own heart. You need to understand a rule. If you don't have a relationship, or if you can't talk normally, leave the person alone. Any words will destroy your fate. Distance yourself from them and start an inner life. It's very difficult for a person to switch to inner life, but it's exactly what prolongs life. Inner life means an ability to walk in prayer, pray while walking, and pray while standing. The ability to fast is also for God. Inner life gives health to a person. What other inner life is there? Serving people, helping them, feeding birds. I will tell you a story. It happened in Krasnoyarsk. I'm interested in these things, I study them. I went outside and saw sunflower seeds in a bottle with a cutout. Birds fly up and peck the seeds. Sparrows peck constantly. There are a few seeds at the bottom. I went to a lecture, came back from the lecture looking and thinking how quickly they'll peck them all up. I saw the seeds quickly running out. I went to the lecture, I returned from the lecture, and I saw the same amount of seeds. Then I went again, and again the same amount of seeds was there. I understood that someone kept adding them. I started looking at the windows. I saw an elderly woman watching the birds as they peck. She loved to serve. I felt so good. Really, I immediately felt such a flow of love, and suddenly I felt good. Why? Because I saw this power of care, this power of love. It possesses such enormous power. You see how long I've remembered this, how long I've kept this memory. Second case, when I was giving lectures in Samara, my parents were already elderly, and I decided to go to Toliati to visit my parents. My father was already seriously ill. So I got in the car and drove to them. It's 100 kilometers there and 100 kilometers back. I needed to give a lecture afterwards. On the way back, I felt I had absolutely no strength to give the lecture. I gave all my energy to my parents. I felt exhausted. I felt I had no strength left, but needed to give a lecture. On the way, I asked my assistant, "Is there any temple around here? Some place, some holy spring, something sacred? I just need to recharge my batteries. I can't give anything to people right now. I have no strength." They respond to me, "Yes, there's a monastery a few kilometers from here. There's a holy spring there. You can take a bath there." They welcome everyone. There are no restrictions. We drove there. When we arrived, I got into the water. There's an icon standing there. I sat there for a while. I felt such purity inside, as if I was just born. No problems at all, nothing, just purity. When I arrived to give the lecture, I told them, "Just sit down, relax, and listen to me." I say, "I was bathing in a holy spring 40 minutes ago." And I asked, "Do you feel the purity?" Everyone in the hall is like, "Wow, such purity is flowing." I just remembered this now. Do you feel the purity? Who felt it? Please raise your hand. So you're listening to the lecture. Everyone else is sleeping. Power comes through memory. If one person listens intently and another remembers, they also receive it. Strong listening affects a person's fate. When you tell me about your life, I listen very deeply inside. During this time, I begin to feel the person you're talking about, their life. That is, all this contact happens through sound. Similarly, you need to be able to concentrate very strongly on prayer. When someone prays, you need to listen to these people very intently, and during this time, this sound connects you with God. When sound connects a person with God, their personal fate always becomes better. It gets cleansed and suffering vanishes from a person's life. This is the strongest method of overcoming fate and the most unknown to people. People just can't understand how it's possible. I've suffered all my life. My husband drinks there. Are you telling me that if I now start listening to how people pray and pray with them, in a year he'll stop drinking? I'll never believe that. That's how people think. One woman comes up to me and says, "Dr. Torsunov, I have a serious situation. Please help. Just don't tell me I need to pray." I say, "Then I'll stay silent." She says, "You say we need to pray because you don't know what to do." I say, "Wonderful, very nice." People think that this is just for calming the soul and diverting attention. No, this is the power that really overcomes fate. There are other ways to tune into God and overcome fate. There are many different ways. For example, you go to a temple and do something there for the monks. Their gratitude will cleanse you. Even if only one of them thinks, "What a good person," that's it. That's your good fate. All their gratitude will cleanse you. The gratitude of those who serve God will cleanse you. Or you simply came to a mass in the church. Everyone is singing and you're doing the same as they are. This common mood is God's energy. It cleanses fate. Let's say a person doesn't know how to pray. The first stage of overcoming one's fate is simple. A person regularly visits the temple and listens to spiritual chants. No swear words are used there, right? What do they sing about? About whom? About God. This means they sing about the best thing in this world. It sets you up for the best and helps you receive the best. This is what luck is. Luck is not when out of nowhere a bird of happiness flew in and gifted you something. Luck means having the right attitude. If you constantly watch trashy TV, you'll have that kind of attitude. I refer to trashy TV. Trashy content shapes your mindset. But if you stand in the temple during service, not only does your body remain stationary, but your subtle energy body is cleansed of diseases, longevity increases, and your fate is purified. People don't know how to cleanse their fate. It's simple. Just stand and listen to the chants. Many can't go far, but now everything is available online. You can turn it on the internet, stand up, and participate in the service from home. That's possible, isn't it? In some Orthodox churches, it's possible. I've heard you can partake in the service directly. You can partake because it's transmitted from somewhere in real time. Is this possible or not? Yes, it is possible. That's it. You can even do it this way. If you can't attend in person, turn it on at home. Of course, it's better to have direct contact to go there, but again, it depends on your opportunities and means. If a person desires, they can access lectures and services at home and feel that purity. So, my dears, remember, if you close your eyes and remember someone close to you, but feel aversion, pain, or heaviness, it means your heart is unclean in relationships with them and your personal happiness is in danger. Second option, you close your eyes and everything seems calm, good. You feel nothing special, you can't remember anything special about the close person. This means you are in the second stage. You live in passion. You lack deep relationships with each other. Your hearts are not close to each other and are not protected from infidelity. However, if you close your eyes, remember a close person, and feel purity, beauty, kindness, and so on, it indicates that everything is normal in your life. When a person remembers someone close, they can diagnose the quality of their connection. If someone says, "Dr. Torsunov, I can't remember anything. I try to remember my husband but can't remember anything," it means there's no connection at all. But we've been living together for 15 years. So what? Between the two of you stand your desires or your dreams, but there's no purity. There is no bond between you at all. This means that the danger of losing the other person is very high. When a bad period comes, goodbye. He goes to another woman. Like in the song, "Oh, apple on a plate, I'm tired of my wife. I'll go to another girl." The system always works this way. When I get tired and the other person doesn't bring happiness, I'll go to another. That's the bitter truth. To avoid this, a person should strive to live like in the song. We'll open the door, call our friends, we'll start singing songs. Everyone will feel warmer. Play such songs at your home. We have a festival. At our festival, we gather a team of very good creative people. There is a group called Divya Rosa. They have very good songs, so I ask them to sing. They listen to my lectures, and they compose songs on these topics. They produce very beautiful songs. Sometimes they create real masterpieces you simply won't find anywhere else. For example, they composed a song praising Mother Earth. Who of you has heard this song? Not many, I see. There's another amazing thing. You know, my friend Evgeny Koinov worked for several months and created a video sequence for this song, a very beautiful one. They sang it, and it turned into a praise of the earth. I highly recommend it to all of you. It's called My Earth. It is incredible. Things like this you should watch and listen to at home, not Santa Barbara nonsense, episode 567. You need to fill your fate with life and soul. You need to fill your fate with purity, not with vulgarity, fears, and demonism. When you watch movies where someone transforms into someone else or someone scares someone, some aliens, all of these are just spirits. These spirits enter the movies and possess the directors who write the scripts. All of this destroys your purity and your life. Yesterday I came across the Mowgli cartoon. I started watching it and I saw purity. I saw purity. Purity comes from the heart through such masterpieces. We need to learn to search for such things. We should look for everything pure. It's not just about old movies. For example, I recently found a song that was also pure and bright. The song was written just a couple of years ago. It's a very profound song. These are the things we should look for, the very best. In fact, people often, I don't know where they get this from, but really in things that open the heart, there is a very deep philosophical meaning. For example, when a person hasn't forgiven someone, they can't live normally. Life ends. Life begins when the heart is cleansed from resentment, anger, and feelings of injustice. From that moment, life truly begins. A woman approached me yesterday and said, "Dr. Torsunov, my husband died in the war. For some reason, I haven't been able to remarry for 10 years. I told her, learn to believe not in your husband, but in God. Learn to forgive fate, to cleanse yourself from this feeling. Immediately another person will appear in your life. You will also wish happiness to your husband for your entire life. But if you keep stewing in this feeling of injustice, then you don't truly live and don't let others live." I had a similar case with another woman. She was suffering deeply. One of my acquaintances asked, "Listen, talk to her. She doesn't listen to your lectures, but maybe you can convince her to do as you say." "But I can't tell you what her trouble is. You'll figure it out yourself." I sat next to her as if we met in a cafe. I looked into her eyes and said, "Something is really troubling you right now." She replied, "Well, yes, but I won't tell you what's bothering me. I don't tell anyone, and I won't tell you either. I can't." I said, "You're troubled by your relationship with your husband?" She looked at me and said, "My husband died. I don't have a relationship with my husband. He's dead." I told her, "No, you still have a relationship with your husband and you're constantly in contact with him. You even see him often." She asked me, "How do you know?" I said that I can see connections between people and feel them. She asked me, "How can one be in contact with a person who is not alive?" I replied, "A person doesn't die. You love your husband so much that you can't let him move on in life. He can't live in this body anymore because it doesn't exist. It is already decomposed. And he comes to you sad all the time, and you're sad too. You meet with him at night." She told me, "I'm in shock. How do you know all this?" I said, "Please let him go. Let him live on." She replied, "I can't let go. I love him. He loves me, and we see each other constantly. I don't know." I thought maybe these were my fantasies. Well, I guess that you're probably right, that he's alive. Just not in the way we live, but he lives somehow differently. He can come to me in dreams. In those dreams I can hug him, I can touch him, but in reality, he's not here. I told her, "Please let him go. He's suffering very much. I can even feel him right now." She replied, "How can I let him go if I can't? I love him." I say that for this, we need to understand that a loved one is meant to be made happy, not to exploit their fate. We should love God. I explained it to her like this. She said, "I don't understand how." I explained, "Well, you'll have to understand. Otherwise, he will continue to stay near you and suffer. Just imagine, you spend the whole day in suspense, needed by no one. No one sees you or loves you. You won't live or act in this world, and only for 5 minutes at night, when you're in a state between sleep and wakefulness. I can come to you, kiss you, hug you, and for these 5 minutes you must then return to non-existence, in a terrible loneliness for the whole 23 hours and 55 minutes a day. This is exactly the state he is in." I said, "Think about it. Let's meet tomorrow and we'll discuss everything again." She came to me and said, when he came, I asked him, "What do you do in between?" He said that he suffers terribly. I can't even describe to you how hard it is for me during this time. At that moment, she understood that I was right about this. So she asked me, "How can I help him?" I replied, "Help comes through perception. We are connected with each other through memory. You need to learn to remember God. When you start remembering God, at that moment your perception will immediately release him, and he will simply go along with his fate. When we remember loved ones with suffering, we bring them suffering. When we remember loved ones with gratitude, we bring happiness and prosperity. When we forget about loved ones who have died and think about God, they become cleansed of the burden of their fate. Moreover, the cleansing happens thousands of times faster than if I were cleansing myself in a living body. You cleanse a loved one from their sins if you pray for them. Prayer has a colossal effect you can't even imagine. My friend's mother passed away. This was a long time ago, about 10 years ago. They were then listening to my lectures carefully. Husband and wife came to me and said, "We want to help Mom. She lived incorrectly. When a person lives incorrectly, they go to purgatory and suffer greatly there. When a person lives correctly, they can go up. They go to the pure zone, where angels live and experience happiness. That's how it is. I can even feel it, where a person goes, and if they go back and forth." The daughter of this woman says, "I have a feeling of a burden. When I remember her, my heart feels like stone." I told her, "If there's a burden in your heart, it means she went down. If there's burning in the heart, like separation, it means she stayed here. If there's lightness and purity in the heart, it means she went up." She said, "I have a burden in my heart." I explained, prayer is needed. So they started praying together. They prayed, and then they also took water from a holy river and brought it. They poured it on the burial site. They did many things. After 4 months, I felt a change. I was also constantly watching, observing what was happening. After 4 months, I felt that she broke free. Her psyche, her soul, broke free from suffering and went up. I told the daughter about this. She replied, "I know about this too." I asked, "How?" She said, "She came to me in a dream, very happy and joyful, and she told me, 'Thank you.' And I saw how she flew up. She went up. You helped me so much." The mother said to her daughter, "Raise your hand if something similar happened to you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now tell me, who among you doesn't believe in this?" I gave you an example, and now 10 people have confirmed it. Who still has a burden in their heart towards their close ones? Who worries? Do you feel lightness in your heart now? Yes. And if you still have heaviness, it means you're not working enough with your heart or doing something incorrectly. For example, you pray for them but think about them, which means you'll never help them because you need to pray to God and think about God. If you can't switch your mind by yourself, then join those who pray and do it together with them. Then you will succeed. How much do you pray daily to help your mother? Not at all. Well, there's your result. How much did you pray daily to help your loved one? 1.5 hours. Well, there's the result. So, my dears, understand that your fate is in your hands. You just need to understand that working on your fate is the hardest work in life. The first thing a person must do in this work is to step over their busyness. What is a person really busy with? We are all busy doing what we understand. Doing what you don't understand, simply because an elder said so, is a great feat in the heart and soul. If you're in love, you're not married, and she's not married, will you find time for a date or not? Everyone will find time for a date, 100%. I know for sure, even at the expense of sleep. Finding time to overcome one's fate is even more important than finding time for a date. You understand? If she loves you, she won't go anywhere. But you'll have to pray all by yourself. You will have to overcome your fate and save your health also all by yourself. You'll have to save your family by yourself. No one will do this for you. Everyone without exception asks me, "Dr. Torsunov, when will the bad period end?" They tell me, "Dr. Torsunov, I don't want to work on my fate. When will the gifts come?" Girls often ask, "Dr. Torsunov, when will there be a good period for marriage?" I say, "In 3 years. Okay, I'll remember. Will I meet someone?" I say, "Most likely you will." She remembered and came back after 3 years. "Dr. Torsunov, you promised me that I would get married in 3 years. I replied, "I couldn't have promised that. It's not me who decides, but God decides if you behave correctly and live properly. You said I would meet someone." I replied, "Well, you did meet someone." She said, "I don't understand." I say, "Well, you met someone, didn't you?" She said, "You mean that one?" I replied, "Well, you met who you deserved." She asked, "What, doesn't God have anyone better?" I replied, "God has plenty of men, but He loves them all, and He can't give you someone better because you'll ruin him." She said, "I won't ruin him." I explained, "You've already ruined 2. Where's the guarantee you won't ruin the 3rd one?" People often don't understand things that happen in their lives. They think, "I'm just unlucky." Please note, ladies, girls, unmarried women, if you become a worthy person, God won't delay for a second, not even a single second, because dignified people are very rare. They represent a great deficit. God will immediately find you a person. But worthy people are few. Nobody purifies their heart. No one prays or works on their fate or makes an effort. Very few people actually do it. Everyone thinks, "There's no time, it's too difficult, I'll just wait." This is how our life passes by, and that's why we are most often unhappy. I'll tell you a story about how people are inclined to think that a little bit of happiness is enough. It turns out we don't really want to be too happy. When the war in Ukraine started, At first I couldn't make myself go there, but people were asking me to come. So I went. I arrived in Kiev. I saw all people in such a depressed state, everyone feeling so unhappy, with so much suffering in their hearts. The meeting hall was completely full, despite me being Russian. A full hall of people, about the same size as yours here, they all gathered together. I spent an entire lecture telling them how to overcome fate and how to pray. When I came for the next lecture, people were already more cheerful. Everyone tried, everyone worked hard. I asked, raise your hand if life became easier for you despite the war continuing. Half the hall raised their hands. Can you imagine? Despite the war, they're so happy, living in prayer, overcoming fate, everything's great. Then I asked, who among you continues to pray, even though it has become easier? Can you imagine from that half of the hall, only a quarter raised their hands? I asked the others, why aren't you praying? You know, Dr. Torsunov, somehow it got better, and that's it. Don't feel like it anymore. This means that a person doesn't need much, just a little bit of happiness, and that's it. This means they don't even know what happiness is. People think that happiness is a peaceful life. A peaceful life is not happiness, it's the absence of suffering. Hello, is everything okay? Everything's okay. Let's keep sleeping. They go on like this until a disaster strikes. This is not happiness. Happiness is when a person overcomes their fate. That's happiness. Happiness is when one works on themselves. I got up this morning, it was hard. That's it, I've traveled much. It's the last city, I have no strength left. As my assistant Maxim, the doctor who travels with me, jokes, 2 dresses are left. Like in the Prostokvashino cartoon, I'll come to you soon. 2 dresses are left to wear. Today Maxim says, well, it's okay, Dr. Torsunov. 2 dresses are left. Tomorrow is the last day. We're going home already, to rest. In the morning I started doing yoga. I started reading prayers and my mind said, relax, you don't need to do anything. Just sleep, lie down, there's time. I thought, no, I need to give a lecture. I did yoga, and after half an hour of exercises, lightness came. After 2 hours, I felt completely free from tension. I started to feel lightness, joy in the heart, and health. This is how a person should overcome their fate every day. Find at least half an hour to overcome your fate. Your life will change tremendously. Everything you feel in your heart is akin to, I feel bad. It's all just a volume of work, that's all. If your kitchen is dirty, do you whine about it all day? You just clean it, and that's all. It becomes clean. The heart is cleaned the same way. Never allow yourself to be bored, worried, or longing. Did you feel any of this? Force yourself, stand still, or kneel down, or sit on your ankles and start listening to those who pray. Repeat together with them. Go to a temple, serve there, wish happiness to everyone. Go for a run, take a long walk. Listen to a lecture while walking. When a person walks and listens to a lecture, their concentration increases very strongly. Never give up on your relationship with your fate. Know that when you perform this positive action, I wish happiness to everyone, and when you think about God, you strongly change your life at that moment. You can't even imagine how much you change your life. At least once overcome your fate, in something at least. From that moment your faith in God will begin, because faith means that I am the master of my fate. I can change it simply because there is God. This is what faith is. A person feels that they have strength. When you were asking me, there was emptiness in your eyes, you felt doom, but I can sense how much time I need to pray for the situation to be resolved. For some people it may take 2 weeks, for others it may take around 8 months or 2 years. But even if you know that you need to pray for 2 years before everything is resolved, considering that you've lived with it your whole life, you immediately cheer up and start to act. When a person understands that there is an end to suffering, they never give up. People suffer because they don't know how to overcome their fate. They think that a difficult situation cannot be changed. That's why they go to various fortune tellers or astrologers who tell them, don't bother buying an autumn coat, get ready for death. Or something like, you have 2 marriages according to your horoscope, and she's only in her first one. Oh, actually, you have 3 marriages in your horoscope, and you won't have children, none at all. One has to be really stupid to believe this. In reality, a person who makes an astrology chart should understand what fate is. It's impossible for a woman not to have children. It all depends on her desire. She can even adopt a child, and that child will become her own. She will experience the same maternal feelings as if she had given birth herself. Telling a woman she will never have children means ignorance and a misunderstanding of how fate works. If a person is born in a female body, she is born to have children. There is no other reason for such a birth. Moreover, when a woman understands what she was born for, all her biological functions are restored. To learn more on the subject of health and healing of the body, please make sure to read my health guide, available for download on my YouTube channel or on my Instagram page. Thank you very much, and see you soon.